Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is another episode of our championship score predictions. So this is now week number 33 of our score predictions, and honestly this championship season has absolutely flown by, guys. We only now have 3 games left of this championship season. However, there is still absolutely everything to play for this weekend. We have some massive fixtures to talk over, and I'm very interested to know what you guys think of these ones. But just before we do get into any of the predictions, guys, I have to first of all start out this video by saying a monumental thank you to everyone who continues to watch and support the channel. I'm recording this video literally as we have just hit 4,000 subscribers, which is just absolutely insane, guys. I honestly can't say thank you enough. You know, from starting this YouTube channel, I honestly didn't think we'd ever get this far, and 4,000 subscribers, it is just absolutely crazy, guys. And it's not only that, but all your interactions and all my videos and all the stuff like that, it just honestly does mean the absolute world to me, and I just can't say thank you enough. So guys, if you've not seen this series before, let me quickly explain how it all goes down. So every week I give you my championship score predictions for what I think the results will be with each game going on in the championship. FIFA 17 also makes their score predictions, but what I'm really interested to know is what you guys have to say. So in the description down below, I'll leave all the fixtures that are taking place this weekend, and I want you guys to go ahead and make your predictions. And then if you do successfully manage to get any of your score predictions correct, I will include your comment at the start of the next video. So guys, without further ado, let's get into the first prediction. So our first game that we have to talk over is the game taking place tonight, taking place between Norwich and Brighton. And this is quite an interesting one, because if Brighton do go ahead and get the victory in this game, they will have won the championship this year. They'll have won the league title, and that is just absolutely crazy. But do I think that they'll do it in this game? I'm not overly too confident really with them doing it. I mean, don't get me wrong, Brighton have been absolutely fantastic this season, but I'm just not sure how focused the Brighton players are going to be in this one. I mean the celebrations we saw last time out with Brighton, with them getting promotion to the Premier League guaranteed, were absolutely crazy. We saw all the players like going out as well later that night. It was just absolutely crazy scenes coming out of Brighton. So I just don't know how focused they'll be on actually playing football now that they have officially made it to the Premier League. And I do get the impression that Brighton are going to secure the title when they have their home fixture next week against Bristol City. So for that reason, I'm going to actually go with a 1-1 draw for this game, and provided that Newcastle win their game this weekend as well, that will mean that Brighton won't have yet won the league title. So I'm going to go with a 1-1. Norwich this season as well have been a pretty decent side at home. Their home form has been pretty good lately, and of course they came off the back of that 3-1 victory last time out against Preston. So for that reason, I'm going to say this one will end 1-1. FIFA saying it'll be 0-0. And then going into our next fixture, guys, we have Brentford, who are coming up against QPR. So once again, we have a little bit of a derby going on here, and quite an interesting encounter to actually talk over. 2 sides coming up against each other here, which on their day are capable of playing some pretty nice football. They've both got some quality players going forward especially, and for this one I'm just going to fancy Brentford to have the edge, because at home is when Brentford's creative players seem to come to the forefront. I mean, players like Vibe, Sergi Canos recently as well, really have been coming to the forefront, as well as that Jota as well. So for that reason, I'm going to go with a 2-1 victory for Brentford, and it could be a tight one. FIFA saying it'll be a 0-0 draw. And then for our next fixture, guys, we have Bristol City, who are coming up against Barnsley. So at this point in time, Bristol City still aren't, you know, completely secure from relegation. However, they have put quite a bit of a buffer zone now between themselves and Blackburn Rovers, who currently occupy the latest relegation spot, and they're coming up against Barnsley, so it'll be actually quite an interesting encounter. It's Lee Johnson coming up against his former side in this one, and Barnsley have been quite a weird team to predict recently, but they've been on the back of getting a lot of draws recently, and I actually see this game taking a similar path to that as well. I think Bristol City going forward, they've actually been playing some decent stuff recently, Bristol City. I think I have to give quite a bit of credit for them, you know. That goal they scored against Blackburn, it had like 31 passes in the build-up, and then Tammy Abraham managed to flick the finish. A very nice goal, I must say. But for this one, I'm going to back a 1-1 draw for this one. I think it will end level. FIFA saying it will also end 1-1. And then for our next fixture, guys, we have possibly one of the biggest games going on at the weekend, guys, because this is going to have a huge significance on both the bottom and top of the championship. We have Burton Albion, who are coming up against Leeds United, and I don't know how to predict this one. I'm just going to come out and say now, I've changed my mind on how I think this game will go about 10 different times, and I would love to get your guys' opinions on what you think will happen in this game. I mean, Burton Albion this season, their home form has been, you know, their outstanding quality really so far this season. Coming up against Leeds United, who have recently dropped out of the playoffs, so really it's imperative that both of these sides win this game really. I mean, Burton's certainly not safe from relegation at this point in time. Leeds, they need the points to get into the playoffs. How do I see this one going? Oh, it's a tough one. I'm just going to back a 2-1 victory for Leeds, because I do think that if both of these teams come up with their A game, Leeds should just come out with the victory. So for that reason, I'm going to back a 2-1 victory for Leeds. FIFA saying it will be 1-0 Leeds. And then for our next fixture, guys, once again, we have a massive game going on. We have Huddersfield Town, who are coming up against Fulham. And oh boy, I would love to know once again how you guys are going to call this game, because once again, a really tricky tie to go ahead and call. Huddersfield recently, I've watched some of their recent games. I don't really think they've been playing the best sort of football recently, of course. They still do have it is an incredibly slim chance of getting automatic promotion, of course. With that last weekend draw they got to Derby County, that sort of put them to bed. They've still got a chance, but it is a very slim chance of catching up Newcastle. And they're of course coming up against this Fulham side, who really do seem to be going into the playoffs with a nice sense of momentum at the moment. They're currently in 6th place, and of course it's undisputed yet whether Fulham will actually make the playoffs come the end of the season, but I think it's got to be said, watching some of their recent performances, some of their players going forward, it's just been absolutely sparkling, some of their play recently. And for this game, I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-1 away victory for Fulham. I was a bit disappointed with Huddersfield's last performance. They only got 1 shot on target against Derby County, so I'm going to say 2-1 Fulham. FIFA saying 1-0 Fulham. Then guys, going into our next fixture, we have Nottingham Forest, who are coming up against Reading. And I mean, Nottingham Forest now, from now until the end of the season, all of their games basically are cup finals. They're currently only 1 point outside of the relegation zone, so relegation is certainly looming over them at this point in time, and it's not an easy fixture that they've got for this one. They're coming up against the Reading side, who are coming off the back of their very encouraging victory they got last time out against Aston Villa. So for this game, it's another really tricky one to predict. I actually do fancy quite a few goals to be scored in this game. I think if any goals are going to be scored this weekend, this is the one I'm going to fancy them to be scored in. So for that reason, I'm going to back a 3-2 victory for Reading, the away side. I just think Forest have got too many flaws which Reading could potentially expose. However, Reading have been a side this season who, when they do come up against the sides at the bottom of the table, they have seemingly let their guard down a couple of times this season, so Forest could potentially cause an upset in this one. I'm going to say 3-2 Reading, FIFA saying 1-0 Reading. And going into our next fixture, guys, we have Rotherham United, who are coming up against Ipswich Town. And I mean, Ipswich, coming off the back of that performance they had last time out against Newcastle, they should just be buzzing going into this game against Rotherham. Of course, they are hard fixtures to predict really, going up against Rotherham. You never really know if a side's going to absolutely put them to the sword, or it's going to be a bit of a closer encounter with Rotherham just sitting back and defending. And I mean, it would be the most typical thing of Ipswich to do, to come off against that magical performance for Newcastle and then to lose this game against Rotherham. That would just sum up Ipswich's season, really, in my opinion. But in all seriousness, I do fancy Ipswich to get the victory in this game. I'm going to go with a 2-1 victory for the away side. I think it will be a bit more hard work than a couple people may be thinking for this one, but I'll say 2-1 Ipswich. FIFA saying 0-0. Then going into our next fixture, guys, we have Sheffield Wednesday, who are coming up against Derby County. So a lot of the games taking place this weekend are going to have a huge significance at the playoffs, guys. Of course, Sheffield Wednesday managed to move themselves up in the table a little bit actually recently, and they really do seem to be grinding out the results come the end of the season. Of course, we've seen a bit of inconsistency this season with Sheffield Wednesday, but when it is really now getting towards the business end of the season, they've got a lot of their big players back, which they had either suspended or injured recently. So it's going to be a tricky one against Derby. Derby have been a bit of an awkward customer recently, really, under Gary Rowett. However, looking over their away form compared to their home form, I think they do tend to struggle a little bit more away from home. So for that reason, I'm going to go with a slim 1-0 victory for Sheffield Wednesday. I think this one could be a bit of a close one. I'll say 1-0 Wednesday. FIFA saying 1-0 Derby. And then going into our next fixture, guys, we have Wigan Athletic, who are coming up against Cardiff City. So, I mean, relegation now, it is looking just increasingly prominent that it's going to happen sooner rather than later for Wigan. So they're coming up against this Cardiff side who, once again, been quite an awkward side this season, actually. They've, under Neil Warnock, they have been a side which has made themselves quite hard to beat. However, saying that, away from home, I don't think they've got the same oomph that they've got playing when they are playing at home. So it's a bit of a tricky one, this one. Of course, Wigan recently, their home performances have actually been quite decent. Of course, Nick Powell really has come to the forefront recently for Wigan, possibly looking for a move away in the summer. That's why his performances have suddenly upped. But for this one, I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw for this one. I think that Wigan, I'm not sure that they've got enough to beat this Cardiff side. However, with them still having something to play for, they should show a bit of spirit in this game. So for that reason, I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw for this game. FIFA saying it'll be a 1-1 draw. And into our next game, guys, we have Wolves, who are coming up against Blackburn Rovers. So once again, Wolves are actually coming into the back of this one off the back of a very impressive performance that they had last time out. So that performance recently by Wolves sort of caught me off guard, really, because really, ever since Wolves have sort of guaranteed safety, we've seen their performances peter out a little bit. They're coming up against this Blackburn Rovers side who still have everything to play for. They're of course still only 1 point away from safety, and looking over the fixtures that Blackburn have got, this is a huge opportunity for them to go ahead and pick up all 3 points. However, saying that, I just think that Blackburn may play this game a little bit too safe. They might be a bit too nervous to not get anything from this game, and for that reason, I'm going to say that this game will end as a 0-0 draw. So I'll say this one will end as a ball draw. FIFA's going to back a 1-0 Wolves victory. And now, guys, this is where the video gets really interesting. We have the game taking place on Sunday. We have a massive derby coming up for this one. We have Birmingham, who are coming up against Aston Villa. So before I give you my score prediction for this game, let me just tell you, if I was to make this prediction probably 3 weeks ago, I'd 100% be backing like a 4-0 away win for Aston Villa in this one. With the way Birmingham were going under Zola, it just looked to be going one way, really. They were looking like certainty for relegation at one point under Zola with how bad they were playing. They are, of course, only 3 points away from relegation as well, so Birmingham definitely still have everything to play for, and Aston Villa are going to want them to do no favours. But however, saying that, Aston Villa have Jonathan Kodjia suspended for this match from getting a red card in his last game, so they're missing their main talisman up front. Birmingham have, of course, got a new manager in Harry Redknapp, and I just think that he'll be able to get the players really riled up for this game. It's a game taking place at St Andrews. It's a sellout crowd. The crowd's going to be behind the players. I'm going to say that this one's going to end as a 2-2 draw, guys. I just don't have enough in me to back a Birmingham victory, knowing how bad they've been playing recently, but I do fancy them to have a bit of a resurgence under Harry Redknapp. I do fancy him to keep them in the Championship, so I'm going to say this one's going to end 2-2. Let me know what you guys think down below. FIFA said it'll be 0-0. And then, guys, for our last fixture taking place, we have the game taking place on Monday. It's really annoying me that this game's taking place on Monday for Sky reasons, but we do have Newcastle, who are coming up against Preston North End. So of course Newcastle could actually confirm promotion to the Premier League this weekend as well. If results do go their way and they do get the victory on Monday night, they will have secured promotion to the Premier League. And of course, myself being a Preston fan, do I feel confident going into this game? No, honestly, I do not feel confident at all. I honestly do think that we could be on the back end of a bit of a battering in this game. I mean, I've already seen us lose 6-0 to Newcastle this season away from home. So going into this one, I really am not confident. I mean, we've got some of our massive players either suspended or injured for this game. Ben Pearson's going to be missing. Tom Clark's going to be missing. Greg Cunningham's going to be missing. So with all our injuries and suspensions of key players going into this game, and with us not having anything to play for, and the fact that we've conceded 3 goals in each of our last 3 games, I'm going to go ahead and back a 4-0 victory for Newcastle. I hate myself for doing that because realistically, Newcastle really haven't been playing the best football recently. I mean, their performance against Ipswich was just awful, but saying that, I get the impression that Preston will go to Newcastle, sit back and hope to get a goal on the counter, but if Newcastle manage to get just 1 goal, I feel like after that the floodgates could just open. So I hate myself for doing it. I'm going to say this game will end 4-0 Newcastle. FIFA saying it'll be 1-0 Newcastle. So guys, there you have it. That that will wrap it up for this episode of my championship score predictions. So make sure you guys do go ahead and leave your score predictions in the comments down below. All the fixtures that are taking place this weekend will be listed in the description. So thank you so much for watching, guys. If you have enjoyed, make sure you leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you subscribe for regular championship content. Thank you once again for 4,000 subscribers. That is just absolutely mental, guys. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.